So it looked like Caitlin Clark has forced ESPN to do the unthinkable. They're making big-time changes to their network for 2020.
Oh, do the unthinkable. They're making big-time changes to their network for 20125 as ESPN finally waking up to what we've known all along. The network that ignored women's basketball for years is now scrambling after Caitlin Clark's earth-shattering impact. But here's what's got their executives sweating bullets right now. Now, this is major because you'll remember me telling you all there is a void for the WNBA news, hence why a lot of people go to YouTube to get the news with a W because there's not a lot of big-time networks covering it because we already know it's a dinosaur league now. ESPN is trying to fill that void with launching a daily show during the season. Now, this is crazy that they're only doing this during the season. You would think that they would have a show all year round, but whatever, that'll leave more work and more topics and content for creators, bro. But the article goes to say you have transcendent audiences draw in Caitlin Clark. Let me tell you, ESPN's top brass is having emergency meetings, and it's all because of one person, Caitlin Clark. You see, something unprecedented is happening in the sports world, and for once it's not about the NFL, NBA, or any male-dominated sport. It's about a revolution that's been brewing in women's basketball, and ESPN, the self-proclaimed worldwide leader in sports, got caught sleeping. Can we talk about what Caitlin Clark has done all season long? She's brought eyeballs to the game. She's brought you to arenas to see opposing teams that you go, oh yeah, they can play two lineup out.
Can we talk about what Caitlin Clark has done all season long? She's brought eyeballs to the game.
Yes.
She's brought you to arenas to see opposing teams that you go, oh, yeah, they can play too.
Yeah.
Lined up outside wherever Iowa played, which then also wherever LSU played, wherever South Carolina played. Women's basketball is at a whole nother level this year because of players like Caitlin Clark.
The most expensive ticket, y'all.
100%.
That's right.
I had someone ask me, do you think Caitlin's getting too much attention? And I said, what? Hell no, she's not getting
She's finally getting the attention she deserves.
Everything Caitlin is doing on the court, she deserves all of this attention.
Yes.
She's that good.
And the flowers.
It's not like she's not good.
Outside wherever Iowa played, which then also wherever LSU played, wherever South Carolina played. Women's basketball is at a whole another level this year because of players like Caitlin, the most expensive ticket. You're 100%. I had someone ask me, do you think Caitlin's getting too much attention? And I said, what, hell no, she's not getting. She's finally getting the attention she deserves. Everything Caitlin is doing on the court, she deserves all of this attention. She's that good. It's not like she's not good, she's tough. Let's break down what's really going on behind those closed doors at ESPN headquarters. For years, decades even, they've treated women's basketball like an afterthought. You know what I'm talking about, those 30-second highlights buried at 2 a.m. if they showed them at all. But now they are scrambling like they've never scrambled before. Why? Because Caitlin Clark didn't just change the game, she changed the entire business of sports media.
What's the most important sports story of the year?
Okay, ladies first, right? So I'm going to talk about the ladies, and I'm going to talk about the proliferation of women's sports and that much debated and discussed term, the Caitlin Clark effect, which is really an umbrella term for everything that happened in sports because it was so much more far-reaching, right? So the stage that was set, the kindling that was there from years of great college basketball and 25 years of the WNBA was lit aflame when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese made their way into the sports debate shows, into the zeitgeist. It took off from there.
When she steps on the court, something magical happens. TV ratings don't just go up, they explode. We're talking about numbers that make network executives do double takes. College women's basketball games, which used to be an afterthought in programming, are now pulling in viewers like primetime NFL games. What was the most important sports story of the year? Okay, ladies first, right? So I'm going to talk about the ladies, and I'm going to talk about the proliferation of women's sports and that much debated and discussed term, that Caitlin Clark effect, which is really an umbrella term for everything that happened in sports because it was so much more far-reaching, right? So the stage that was set, the kindling that was there from years of great college basketball and 25 years of the WNBA was lit aflame when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese made their way into the sports debate shows, into the zeitgeist. It took off from there. But here's where it gets really interesting, and trust me, you're going to want to hear this. ESPN has been watching their analytics, and what they are seeing has them shook to the core. When Caitlin Clark plays, social media engagement goes through the roof. We're talking millions of impressions, countless viral moments, and the kind of buzz that advertisers dream about. And it's not just about the numbers, it's about the cultural impact. People who never watched women's basketball before are suddenly becoming die-hard fans, kids both Girls and boys are trying to copy her logo. 3's jersey sales are going crazy. The impact is so big that even the old school executives can't ignore it anymore. Remember when ESPN used to act like women's basketball was just a favor they were doing for Title IX? Those days are gone now. They're realizing they might have missed the boat on the biggest sports story of the decade while they were busy giving us the same old debates about LeBron versus Jordan. A whole new era of basketball was emerging right under their noses. Let me give you some inside information that's not being talked about enough. ESPN's viewership for traditional sports has been slowly declining. Young viewers especially aren't tuning in like they used to. They are going to YouTube, TikTok, and other platforms for their sports content. But when Caitlin Clark plays, those young viewers come flooding back. If you're feeling this breakdown, do your boy a favor and smash that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. Because we stay dropping these truth bombs about what's really going on in sports, let's keep this fire content coming. Now let's talk about what ESPN is planning to do about it. They are not just making small changes, they are completely restructuring their approach to women's basketball. Sources inside ESPN, and trust me, I've got people who know people, say they're investing millions in new programming, new talent, and new technology, all centered around women's basketball. But here's the thing, they might be too late to the party. While ESPN was sleeping on women's basketball, a whole ecosystem of content creators and independent media outlets was building authentic connections with fans. These creators weren't just covering games, they were telling stories, building communities, and giving fans what they really wanted. Think about it, where do most WNBA fans go for their daily news? Not ESPN. They go to YouTube channels, Twitter accounts, and podcasts run by people who've been covering the league with respect and dedication for years. These creators didn't just jump on the bandwagon when it became profitable, they were there through the thin times, and that's what makes ESPN's current situation so ironic. They've got all the resources in the world, multiple TV channels, a massive digital platform, countless reporters and analysts, but what they don't have is credibility with a core women's basketball fan base. That's something you can't buy with a big budget. You have to earn it. The internal debates at ESPN must be fascinating right now. Imagine being one of those executives who repeatedly shot down proposals for more women's basketball coverage. How do you explain that decision now? How do you justify missing out on one of the biggest sports stories of our time? But it's not just about ESPN's past mistakes, it's about what's coming next. With Caitlin Clark entering the WNBA, we're about to see something we've never seen before. The Indiana Fever, who got the first pick in the draft, are about to become the most watched team in the league's history. Every game will be an event, every highlight will go viral. ESPN knows this, and that's why they are panicking. They are trying to position themselves as the home of women's basketball, but they are competing against creators who've been doing this work for years. These creators have built trust, understanding, and real connections with the community. Let's talk numbers for a second, because this is where it gets really crazy. When Caitlin Clark broke the in-seater scoring record, that game didn't just do good ratings, it did Super Bowl numbers for a regular season college game. We're talking about millions of viewers tuning in to watch women's college basketball on a random Sunday afternoon. The ripple effects are huge. Advertisers who never considered investing in women's sports are lie calling their agents. Marketing executives are restructuring their entire strategies. In ESPN, they are trying to figure out how to make up for years of neglect in just a few months. But here's what makes this story even more fascinating. It's not just about Caitlin Clark anymore. She might be the catalyst, but what's happening now is bigger than any one player. She's opened the door for other stars to get the recognition they deserve. Players like Odell Wilson, Kelsey Plum, and Sabrina Ionescu are finally getting the platform they should have had years ago. Now let me tell you something that's going to blow your mind about what's really happening behind the scenes. ESPN isn't just planning a show, they are planning an entire rebrand of how they cover women's basketball. But here's where things get interesting. The Athletic dropped a bombshell report that's got everyone talking. They straight up called ESPN out, saying they better launch this daily studio show for the WNBA or they are going to get crushed. Not just critic is crushed. That's strong language from a respected sports outlet, and it tells you everything you need to know about how serious the situation is. But let's dig deeper into what ESPN is actually planning. This daily studio show they are talking about, it's only going to run during the WNBA season. Now let me tell you why that's a problem. The WNBA isn't just about the games anymore. It's about free agency, draft preparation, trades, off-season training, overseas play. There's content all year round. Think about this right now. If you want to know what's happening with your favorite